welcome back to our circle. I am Rhiannon.
And I'm Jess.
And we are back with another episode. So today we are talking about love languages. I think it's quite an interesting subject, and I kept hearing about it over all of these lockdowns just because people are sort of wanting to take random quizzes online and just talk about different things, and love languages is one of them. And I guess it's sort of something that's come up in conversations with people, whether they're single and just thinking about their relationship status, or people who've been spending time with their loved ones and their partners, and they're just sort of recognizing what does and doesn't work for them in their relationship. And I just thought, let's have a look into this. So had you ever really heard of love languages before?
I've definitely heard the terminology, but not what it actually means, to be honest.
Right. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Then that's quite fun because I can teach you something and hopefully someone else. So the idea of love languages was actually brought up by a guy who's an author, a pastor, and a speaker. His name's Gary Chapman. And he introduced the concept of love languages in his best-selling book in 1992 called The 5 Love Languages. So there are 5. And they come in receiving gifts, physical touch, quality time, acts of service, words of affirmation. Is that 5? Did I say them all? 1, 2.
I think so.
Yeah. And I just wanted to sort of find out a bit more information about it and find out like what the most common one is, and just based on things like that. He sort of didn't do a scientific study, he said, but he sort of did it based on the response of 10,000 people who took his quiz on his website in 2010, and the most common one was words of affirmation, which I thought was quite interesting.
That is interesting. Yeah.
That was 23% of people from that, I guess, collection of people, we should say, was for words of affirmation. 20% was quality time. 20% was also for acts of service. 19% was physical touch, which really surprised me. I thought that would be one of the top ones, if I'm being honest.
Me too.
Guess not. And the last one is 18% receiving gifts. I've got a quote here from what he'd said about this. He said, after many years of counselling couples, like couples in crisis, and taking notes during each session, I sat down one day and began thinking about what it takes for a person to feel loved. It became apparent to me that what makes one person feel loved isn't always the same as their spouse or partner. I discovered every person understands and receives love in a specific language, 1 of 5 to be precise. And so I asked Jess if she would take this quiz as well. And so the one that we use is from 5lovelanguages.com. It's the most common one that's used. It's the first one that comes up when you Google it as well. And it gives you 4 categories or 4 types of quizzes you can take. One is for couples, one's for single, one is for children as well, I saw. Did you see that?
Yeah. Was it teens or children?
I think both. Yeah. I think it was teens, children, singles, and in a couple. So I asked Jess to take the couples quiz, and I took the singles one, as that's the relationship status that we are in. And what was your result?
What was my result? I sent it to you.
Okay, so I believe that yours was the acts of service.
Right, yes.
Did that surprise you that you got that result?
No.
Oh, really?
It didn't surprise me, but I have to admit, when I saw it, I laughed when I saw it, but I also felt a little bit sad because I felt like that wasn't the most like romantic one there could have been, and I wanted it so badly to be more, I'm craving physical touch, or that's my love language. I don't know.
But then some people would think of that as like needy, wouldn't they? I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of this is what I sort of wanted to talk about. There's so many pros and cons of this. I'm just looking at the screenshot that you sent me of your result, and it says your primary love language is acts of service, and it gives you a little paragraph. So I wondered if you would respond to this. So it says, can vacuuming the floors really be an expression of love? Absolutely. Anything you do to ease the burden of responsibilities weighing on acts of service person will speak volumes. The words he or she most want to hear, let me do that for you. Laziness, broken commitments, and making more work for them tell speakers of this language their feelings don't matter. Finding ways to serve speaks volumes to the recipient of these acts. How does that make you feel? Like, do you feel like you really relate to that? Can you think, when you hear that, do you think of immediate examples? Like,
oh, 100%. And I think when answering the questions, I secretly knew that that was going to be my result, because my day to day, and I don't know if it's, I think I said this to you earlier, that I think my love language has probably changed since having a baby, because that shifts your dynamics of your relationship completely, which, although people do warn you of before you have a baby, nothing can kind of prepare you for it. It's just like rolling with the punches. So I would have said before having Mila, like bringing me food and making me food was 100% like up there. And I don't think that's changed, to be fair.
No, I don't
I think
so
that's
either.
definitely an expression of love for me. I also think affection was quite big for me before having Mila, that physical touch. But as a lot of people say after they have babies, or mums say, that they are touched out by the end of the day, because you're constantly holding a baby or little kid is like hanging off you all day. That actually, especially during the first months after having Mila, I was like, do you know what, I could do with a bit of space, actually. But giving credit to Joe, like, he'd always make that effort to give me a hug when he first comes in, give me a kiss, like do all the things we would normally do. Obviously not without my consent, but like as in like he would always continue as we would usually do before Mila,
like giving you a sense of normality.
Just trying to make it like, wait, no, this is us, this is what we do. So I actually really appreciate that. But definitely since having Mila, priorities change. Like, you just, if he goes I spoke to him about this. I said that this was coming up on the podcast, and he was like, oh, that's so interesting, because he was like, oh, I feel like I'm a bit needy now. And I was like, no, it's not like that. It's just that your love language is very affectionate. He's a very affectionate person. Whereas for me, it's like, if he goes and does the hoovering, like it said in the results, I'm like, this is amazing. I didn't even say anything. He's just picked up on something that was on my to-do list in my head. And I've not even had to say anything to him. And that makes me feel more calm and more relaxed and more open to, it sounds so unromantic, but like having more time for each other, because we're sharing that burden. We're sharing that load.
When you say his love language is, did you say physical touch?
I would say so.
Yeah. Do you mean he likes to, do you mean it in both ways? As in, he likes to receive physical touch or he likes to give physical touch? Like, that's how he shows it. Is that because
I think it's both. I think he likes to receive it.
Yeah, because I got a bit confused in some ways by this, because it's sort of like, does it mean that you show love like your love language, or you receive it, or is it implying both, that you like to both give and receive? Because I think I give different to how I would like to be received.
I think from what it sounds like you said about the guy doing the research, and he says that everyone has a different love language, I think it means that you need to learn your partner's love language in order to communicate that well. So like for me, I think my receiving love language is what the quiz has said.
Yes, that's what I think too.
Yeah, and I think that Joe's is probably the physical side. He loves a cuddle, he loves holding hands, he loves the touching side. And I think, like I said, I think I do, I mean, this could be a whole other episode, but I think I'm getting back to that affectionate, that is more important to me now. Whereas previously, after having Mila, I was like, that's not a priority for me anymore.
No.
As well, and also another interesting one is receiving compliments and these kind of affirmations. For me, if you mean a compliment as in, oh, you look lovely today, for me, don't care. I would have really cared before Mila. I would have been like, I've really made effort today with my makeup and my hair. Like, I would really like you to notice it. And to be fair to Joe, like, he does notice things like that. But it's not like that for me now. For me, it's more the recognition that I've done something to, again, ease the load for each other. So, like, for example,
definitely.
thank you for dinner. I know that this is really tasty. Thank you for making dinner for us tonight. Or it looks really clean and tidy in here. Thank you for cleaning up. All things like that, which, again, I think, to be fair to Joe, he's really good at like recognizing things like that and knowing that I like that recognition. I think that's where it kind of stems from, is that he knows that that's a lot of effort. That's everything I've been doing throughout the day. And for someone to recognize that that's hard work for me.
So he recognizes your love language. He's bilingual. He recognizes.
yeah, he does. Can you read out again what the breakdown was of the love languages, the percentages?
Yeah, so for your percentage,
no, not for mine, but like in general. Like,
in general. So in general, well, the one based on what was most common was words of affirmation. That was 23%.
And then I think that was that was the one that I was going to talk about. Words of affirmation. So does that mean, like I said, like compliments and things? Is that what that means?
Yeah, I think that comes into it. And I think it also, affirmation, like you're doing a good job, like what you said, Joe says to you, like thank you, like recognition. I think that's affirmation as well. It's affirming something, isn't it?
So do you think that stems from a place for people, like a place of insecurity? So you kind of want that reassurance?
I think many people will use the word insecurity because it definitely is that, but I don't think it necessarily means an insecurity. I think there is a difference between insecurity and reassurance. I think there's nothing wrong with being reassured. It's almost like insurance, isn't it? It's like having that backup, like for any slight moment where you might it might even just be self-doubt, it could be something where you're not feeling great in yourself or something. You then have that other person to suddenly boost you back up because they've found, actually, no, you're good, like you're in a good place, or whatever you're doing is great, or something, you are great. So I think it does come from an insecure part of inside you, maybe, for some people, but I think I would more focus on the reassurance than insecurity, personally.
Okay. I think I'm coming from a psychological viewpoint again.
I mean, it makes more sense, doesn't it?
I mean, I think I completely understand it. I think,
yeah,
if you've got relationship experience, I think every single aspect, or all of those love languages, you can kind of think back and relate to, and think about how important those things were for you. Like, for example, now you've told me the breakdown of what the love languages are, and I'm thinking back to the questions they asked me. There were some like gift related ones, and this one, we spoke about it really briefly earlier, didn't we? I was like, I don't really get the gift thing, because I don't care. Like, I know some people might care a bit more about maybe receiving some flowers or things like that, but you put it in such a good way that you're saying it's more like it could be something really small, really minor, but something that someone's remembered about you, or thought,
it's to show that they're thinking about you more than buying you out, if that makes sense. Like, it's not about buying your love. And I'm guilty of doing this to so many of my friends. Like, I feel like, like if someone said, oh, I want this but I can't afford it or something, I'll be like, oh, I'll get it, sort of thing, because I want them to be happy. So it's sort of things like that, I think. And this is sort of what brings me into my other sort of point, is I feel like love languages aren't just a romantic thing. Like, it's not just about someone who you're romantically involved in. I think we speak in love languages to all of our relationships, like friendships as well. Like, my love languages absolutely apply to my friendships, because my love language is quality time. I really, really love having quality time with people over everything else, to be honest, just because. And I also wondered if my answer would come out differently if we weren't in a pandemic, because I think I was answering everything thinking about what I would want right now. So some of the questions I have here, actually, because I screenshotted some of them.
Do you know, it was really interesting when you just said that. I was thinking back to like birthday gifts and things that we've done together, and a few of them have
you and I, or you and Joe?
No, you and I.
Oh.
been because we're talking about friendships now, aren't we? I was thinking about experiences and things that we've done together, so like going to gigs or going to like pizza and prosecco things. So, I thought of that like as and that's something that I've really enjoyed in the past few years, especially, is going to gigs. So I think that kind of spending time with someone has become so much more valuable, I think, as I've gotten a bit older.
But do you notice as well how it's almost like it almost sounds calculated? I'm showing love in a sense of I'm giving love in the gifts category, shall we say, or the gifts language, as in I'm buying you an experience thing in order for me to get my quality time.
Like, yeah, okay.
Like, doesn't that
when you put it like that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm just thinking of it like, yay, that's going to be fun, she'll love that. But it's funny how it kind of works in that sort of
ties it both in. Yeah.
I don't know. I found the quote that I was sort of trying to look for. So some of the questions, like you said, they would ask you about a gift. So the way that they would phrase it in my one anyway, I'm assuming it was probably the same for you. It would say, it's more meaningful to me when, and then it would give you the two options. So this one was, someone I love gives me a little gift as a token of our love or concern for each other, versus I get to spend uninterrupted leisure time with those I love. To me, the second one I would want more right now. Like, I would just want to have all the time I could with people that I love, rather than them sending me stuff.
Yeah, like, because you haven't seen them for so long. But whether if it was a normal situation,
I don't know. Well, I think I am the same with you with gifts. Like, it's not something I need. It's definitely appreciated, don't get me wrong. I would never receive something from someone and be like, why'd you do that, or something, you know. I'd be like, okay, thank you. But yeah, time is more important to me. I value that more. But because we are in a pandemic, I'm also sort of seeing the flip side. I know I can't spend time with people, so it's like, okay, so what's the alternative? Like, what can I then substitute that for? So if I'm not getting my quality time, how else do I get it? Is it words of affirmation? Is it the gift giving? Is it well, the other ones, well, it can't be touch. You have to compensate, I think. So it's interesting how these love languages work, and I wonder how other people feel about them.
I mean, I would love if anyone's listening and interested to take the quiz themselves, them to get in touch with their answers, because yeah, I mean, so yours was what, sorry, again?
Mine's quality time.
Quality time, right? Yeah, so ours are quite different, so it'd be so interesting to see what other people's are.
Do you know what I'm also interested in? Like, if someone finds out what their love language is, if it causes some sort of conflict in a relationship, because
right, okay,
like, is this like a compatibility thing? Because some people speak their love language, you know, a lot clearer than others, and if they don't understand it, or they don't feel like I can't give you gifts all the time or something, and that's what you need, is that where people are sort of struggling in relationships? Like, again, obviously it's always down to communication, but I wonder if that really some love languages just clash.
That's so interesting. I wonder if it would, yeah, if a couple were to take the quiz, I wonder if it would help or hinder their relationship.
Yeah,
because it could really help, because it could be like, wait, this is what I've been trying to communicate to you, this is what I need.
Yeah.
And the other, or it could be like you said, I can't give this to you. I'm not a physical person. I can't, it's just not in my nature to touch you all the time, but that's what you need, that's your love. So that's so interesting.
I think
couples get in touch if you're having problems. Let us know.
I always think of one of my favorite songs by Kalani is called RPG, and there's the rapper, what's his name? I can't remember his name. The rapper's verse in it, he's basically actually, she's even got songs called Love Language, but in this particular song, his verse is talking about how he recognizes that they both speak different love languages, but they're coming from the exact same place. They're wanting the same result, and they're coming from the same place, but the way that they're trying to get there is completely different because they have different love languages. And I think that's really interesting. It applies again to like the sort of, is it something that relationships actually need? Like, do you think that you need to know each other's love language, or do you think that finding out that they could be very different would make it worse? Like you said, it could like hinder it.
I can only speak about my own
Yeah.
experiences, really, but I've got to say that Joe and I most definitely have different love languages, and I don't think it causes an issue. I think it would cause an issue if we didn't know what each other's love languages were. And luckily, we're quite good at communicating, even about like pretty tough topics. So if I was really struggling with something, I'm pretty good at bringing it up and speaking about it. So if I said, I'm sure I've probably said that I feel underappreciated at some point when I've been feeling particularly hormonal or something. I've been like, well, I've just done this all day, blah, blah, blah. He's picked up from what I've said that I appreciate recognition and that reassurance. And so he definitely goes out of his way to thank me for certain things. And I feel pretty sort of happy and complete because I feel like I've got that recognition.
Right.
And for him, I know I might have days where I'm touched out, but I know that he loves a hug or a cuddle. So I always make that effort to do that. So I think definitely it definitely helps in our relationship that we know each other's love languages. 100%.
Yeah. I also wonder, does your love language change for each relationship?
That's interesting.
Because I sort of think I don't really feel like I'm qualified to really talk. I sort of, if we're being honest, I don't really consider myself to have been in relationships properly. Like the ones that I have were all from my teenhood, pretty much.
Wow.
So I feel like it's kind of hard to relate from an adult mind that I have, well, ish mind that I have now. But I can safely say that I was completely, with each relationship, strong emphasis on quotes, I was different.
Yeah. Actually, when I was thinking about this topic, I spoke in a previous episode about this woman's Instagram that I follow called Anna Mather. I think that's how you pronounce it, but I'm not sure. She's an author of a book called Mind Over Mother. So her account is very much based around anxiety and motherhood. But one post that she recently put up, which really, really resonated with me, was about how love changes. So I guess that's kind of similar to love languages. And she was saying that, so this is a quote from the caption. It's quite a long caption, so I didn't put it all down. I could have written more because it really resonated with me. It says, love changes. Sometimes on the surface it looks like less when actually it's just gone deeper. It no longer feels too good to be true. So for me, like I said, that my love languages changed since before having a baby to afterwards. I think this is quite personal for me to talk about, but I feel comfortable enough to say it, that after we had Mila, I was like, because our relationship was completely thrown and completely different and up in the air, for me personally, in my head, I was like, oh my God, like, where's that passion gone that we had before? Like if anyone knew like Joe and I before we had Mila, like we were like, really affectionate.
You should see the photos of when we were first in a club with them. Wow.
So embarrassing. Maybe one day
would you let me put that in this?
Yeah, go on, why not?
Okay, viewers.
Yeah, so we were really, really passionate, but obviously after you have a baby, it's just, like I said, just things really change, and you naturally question things. You're like, oh my God, are we still in love? Because we've changed so much. Our love languages, I guess, as we're putting it into words, has changed. And this post really, and I don't think it's spoken about enough. That was my problem, is I was honestly just like constantly looking online, like, is this normal? And people say your dynamics change, but they don't really. I found a couple of really, really good accounts that basically said, look, this is the raw, honest truth. Like, your relationship has changed, but it doesn't necessarily mean you don't love each other anymore. You're adapting, you're changing. You just need to find your way again. You need to kind of come together again and find out this new way of you've got a third person in your relationship now. So you kind of need to just readjust. And that post really resonated with me, because it was like, what she was basically saying when she says it no longer feels too good to be true, is that previously you would question everything, like, oh, like your insecurities would really come up. And this happened with my previous relationships. I'd feel really insecure. I'd be like, oh, that girl's really pretty and they're friends with them. Like, does that mean that she's better than me? Do they fancy her? Blah, blah, blah. Now, that is so insignificant to me. There are so many more bigger issues at hand or bigger things to worry about.
Yeah.
So
I also
me,
think you were also given reason to feel insecure, whereas I think Joe
right,
doesn't give you reason to feel insecure.
yeah, I feel very secure and loved, and I don't feel a reason to question that. And to be fair, I don't think I felt like I really need to question it before Mila, but
Mm.
we were only together a year before I got pregnant. So it was still pretty fresh. Yeah, we moved quick. But yeah, no, I do think it changes with relationships, because in certain relationships you might feel more secure, so maybe your love language does change in that sense. But maybe if you are feeling insecure in a relationship, you might really need that reassurance all the time, those affirmations. You might need that extra physical touch, whereas for me, like I said, as my result shows, it's those acts, those day-to-day acts that show me that Joe's really listening to me and we're really communicating, because he knows what I need. So yeah, I found that really interesting. But that's again all to do with motherhood. I think after having a baby, just constant evolving of the
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah. I think like you said, I think in relationships and new relationships and stuff, the love language does change because you adapt to each other as well. And I think it must be strange for people. I reckon it's something that I would probably have to get used to as well, going into a new relationship, because what might have previously worked for me and anyone will probably not work for someone new. And it's trying to work out, okay, am I willing to, like, does that love language work for me? Can I speak this love language? Can I give this love language to this person? Or is this one not for me, sort of thing? And I reckon that's probably something that without, like, subconsciously people are working out when they're dating. Like when they're trying to date someone seriously, they're trying to work out, okay, it's not just a compatibility of do we have the same interests and goals or whatever. It is literally these love languages, like what we need to receive, what we need to give. Because if you can't do that, then ultimately it's sort of like, well, probably
Yeah.
not for you. So I think it is interesting that this Gary Chapman has managed to figure out this is what everyone is actually sort of speaking, searching, trying to figure out.
This is making me think so much about previous relationships now. Like with my ex, I remember I went to see a therapist after we broke up, and I was suffering with really, really bad anxiety. And when I was speaking to her, I was telling her that about how he was really like closed off and really not very good at communicating at all. And that's with everything, like how he was feeling. I think I found that really, really difficult, because I'm someone who communicates quite a lot, quite openly. And she said, well, that completely makes sense why you couldn't trust him. There was no trust there because you were not able to communicate. So probably in that relationship, the affirmations were so important to me and I wasn't getting
Right.
it. So
Yeah.
he wasn't speaking my love language. So it didn't work out. And
Mm.
he couldn't give it to me. And that's just who he was. It wasn't supposed to, didn't fit. It wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah, I think
Whereas, yeah.
that gives a really sort of comforting feeling, actually. And I hope that this episode does bring some sort of comfort to people, that if you are struggling with a breakup or heartache or anything, it is sort of a sign. Like it just wasn't meant to be. Then someone else will speak your love language.
Yeah. And if it's meant to be, that person will listen to you, whatever your love language is,
Mm.
whether it's changed or not, and adapt to it and
Mm.
give that to you if they can.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I've learned from my relationship now with Joe, is that we're adapting as we go, and the more we talk, the more we're understanding each other, the more we're ourselves. That's what I was going to say to you, like, should we be changing our love languages, relationship to relationship, though? Is our love language just,
That's interesting.
like, should it be something that we change, or is that something someone else should be able to be compatible with and
Well,
accept?
so
Or
do you know where I was coming from this? I was thinking in my head about people who've been in quite like long relationships where maybe, I don't want to use the word toxic, but just things that maybe didn't work with them, but they were just speaking this sort of love language. And then say, for example, they break up, and say, let's say it's a woman and she's suddenly done a lot of like self-discovery, and she's got really empowered, and she actually doesn't want to feel needy anymore, and she just wants to be, you know, empowered and good on her own sort of thing. So then trying to get into another relationship, she no longer wants to do the needy things or need those needy things, and she wants to remain being strong and independent, but she has to still figure out how to like be with someone, I guess. So I feel like those sorts of ideas, you are going to change your love language.
So it's kind of growing.
Yeah, like
when your self growth means that your so does your love language. It's changing, evolving. Okay.
I think so.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Maybe not for everyone, but I do think that that's definitely a thing. I think I'm probably one of those people.
Yeah. So do you think like when you come across when you're in a good place with yourself and you're ready to get into a relationship and you find the right person, do you think that love language then won't change, or do you think like it will change with whatever life throws at you? Like I said, having a baby.
So that sort of instance, that if it's something that would change it, like a baby or things like that, then so be it. That's what happens. That's just life. I think mine is more like I have a fear of, I don't want to lose myself.
Yeah.
I almost sound like I was given an example being me. I wasn't. That was just a hypothetical thing, but it turns out it kind of sounds like me. I wouldn't want to lose all of the self like work I've been doing with myself and things like that. I don't want that to get lost in a relationship. So I would need to know that I'm going into a relationship with someone where, well, there's like that mutual respect, all those great things and whatever, but where I know that if my love language is going to change slightly, it's got to be for a pretty good reason, or like a reason that isn't sacrificing myself.
Yeah, and not on someone else's terms. Like it's because you're changing, you're adapting. Exactly. For a positive reason.
I think there's nothing wrong with meeting in the middle, like compromise. Like compromise is what relationships are. I have nothing wrong, like there's nothing wrong with that. I have no problem with that. I think I would have a problem with me changing and to fit someone else's needs. That like, and nothing being done otherwise. So that's sort of my view on that.
So interesting.
It is. I feel like you can talk about this for ages.
Yes, but we don't have all the time.
But we do not. We don't want to waste all your time today, people. So I'm going to wrap this up, and I want to talk about a charity based on love. They are called Choose Love. And if anyone has heard of them, I would really hope that you will look into this company or charity. They are on a global scale. They have raised millions to support refugees and created a movement of people putting love into action around the world. So everything from life-saving search and rescue boats to food and legal advice. They have teams in 15 countries working globally, reaching 1 million refugees in the past 5 years, which is absolutely incredible. They've raised tens of millions for nearly 150 organizations, providing vital support at every stage along migration, from routes in Europe to the Middle East, along the US-Mexico border. So they're helping absolutely anyone that they can in need who is seeking peace and justice and safety. So their whole mission is for a world that chooses love and justice every day for everyone. And I just think, what a beautiful message. So the way that I think best to get you all involved is obviously to go over to their Instagram, which is at Choose Love. Their website is choose.love. And when you go on there, they have this awesome thing called the Choose Love Shop, which is an online shop for refugees. So like when you go on to any other online website and you would be internet shopping, instead of it being shopping for you, you were shopping directly for a refugee. So you could be getting them emergency needs, daily survival kits, and building their future. So it's such a great thing you can donate to. If you don't feel like shopping there, you can also go to their merchandise part where you can get t-shirts, gift cards, hoodies, baby grows, and tote bags, and 100% of the profits go straight to supporting refugees. I just think it's such a brilliant act of love and a great cause. So if you can all go to at Choose Love and show support, that would mean so much to us. On that note, I hope that everyone has enjoyed this episode. Please let us know what your love language is. We will put the link in the description to the quiz so you can take the quiz yourself and find out, and let us know. And we will see you in our next episode.
Thank you. Bye.